Hey everyone, welcome to the UFOhub Webcast. Today's guest is going to be Garnet Schulhauser. And as always, I'm going to let the guests get into their background information, so let's get to it. Hi Garnet, how are you? Thanks for being on.
I'm just fine, Adnan. Thank you for having me.
So I figured we'll get started with a little bit of your background and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in a very religious Roman Catholic family in Saskatchewan, which is a province of Canada. I eventually ended up in law school, and I practiced law in Calgary for about 34 years. Okay. So how my new journey started with my spirit guide Albert was that I was still practicing law in Calgary, and I was walking down the street one afternoon, and a homeless man just seemed to come out of nowhere and jumped right in front of me and stopped me in my tracks. And he looked like a typical homeless man with a long stringy hair and a scraggly beard and dirty slept-in clothes. Um, but I didn't go around him because he had these amazing, sparkling, dazzling blue eyes, and his eyes were sort of sending me this gush of pure, what felt like pure unconditional love that was infusing my whole body with an amazing sense of peace and security and well-being. And so I was really enjoying this, and I don't know how long I stood there. I was like a deer caught in the headlights. I just stood there. And then all of a sudden he broke the spell by saying to me, "Why are you here?" And then he quickly disappeared into a nearby store. Well, when I finally collected my wits, I decided I had to go and find this guy to find out who he was. Why did he stop me? So I went into the store that he had gone into. There was only one entrance, and he was nowhere in the store, and I hadn't seen him come out. I went back out on the street and I walked up and down for several blocks, but he had disappeared into thin air. I mean, he was gone. So that night I resolved that I would go back the next day to try to find him. So I did, went back to the same street, same time, to try to find this homeless man. And after searching for 15 or 20 minutes, I was about to give up. And then I spotted him sitting all alone on a bench. So I went up to him and I said, "Hi, who are you and why did you stop me the other day?" And he said, "I'm a soul just like you. I'm here to help you on your journey and answer your questions." And then my skeptical lawyer brain kicked in. And I said to him, "Why do you think you can help me when you can't even help yourself? Because it looks like you've been sleeping on the street for weeks and you smell like a dead fish." Well, he just gave me a big smile and he said, "Looks can be deceiving because you look like you're a very successful corporate lawyer with everything under control, but we both know that's just a facade." He said, "If you want to, you can turn around and go back to your office and see if you can find the answers to all those questions you've been asking yourself all these years. See if you can find those answers in all those emails from your clients waiting on your computer." Well, of course, I knew that wasn't going to happen. My intuition said, "Well, what do I have to lose? I can sit down, have a chat with this guy for half an hour, not a big part of my day." So I did, sat down, we began a conversation that went off and on for several months. He told me his name was Albert, and he was really one of my spirit guides in disguise. The initial contact with him was a dialogue. I'd ask a question, he'd give me an answer. And then after a few of these episodes, he said to me, "By the way, I'm not just here to satisfy your curiosity. I want you to write a book about what I reveal to you so they'll be available to everyone." Which took me aback a bit because I'd never even dreamed of writing a book. I had never, it wasn't even on my radar screen anywhere. But so at the end of our first set of dialogues, he then encouraged me to sit down and write the manuscript for a book, and which I did, which resulted in my first book, Dancing on a Stamp. After my first book, Dancing on a Stamp, was published, Albert came back into my life later in a very different way. I was sleeping in my bed, and something made me wake up, and I sat up in my bed and I could see this ghost-like ethereal figure standing in the doorway of my bedroom. And when it moved closer to me, I could see it was Albert, the homeless man I had met on the street, but now he was in astral form. And so I said, "Hi, Albert, what brings you here now this time?" And he said, "I'm here to take you on a series of out-of-body astral adventures. I want to take you to the spirit side, to other places in the universe, to other places on your planet, because I want you to write about what you see and hear in your next books. And by the way," he said, "you finished one book, you're going to write at least 3 more," which again sort of took me aback because I hadn't really counted on that. But Albert's very persuasive. And so then he literally reached out, he grabbed my astral hand, pulled my astral body out of my physical body, And I turned around and looked, and my physical body was still sound asleep in bed. So now I'm in astral form, and my body is in bed. And I said, "Okay, let's go, Albert." And so we rose up through the ceiling, up through the clouds, and he allowed me to hover above our beautiful planet, way high up, so I could turn around and look at it. And it was a beautiful sight. It's just our planet, just like a jeweled pendant hanging in the inky blackness of space. And then from there, we went on to the spirit side, and then we had a number of adventures, which resulted in my second, third, and fourth books, which are Dancing Forever with Spirit, Dance of Heavenly Bliss, and Dance of Eternal Rapture. And then he did come back again after those four books, and we had another series of adventures, which resulted in my fifth book, Dancing with Angels in Heaven, which is in the process of being published by Ozark Mountain Publishing, who also published my first four books. And that new book will be out sometime, I'm not sure when, late this year or early next year. And so all of those books have to do with either my dialogue or my astral trips with Albert. And he was my guide. He was very specific about what he wanted me to see, who he wanted me to talk to, what sort of message he wanted me to put in my books, because he wanted humanity to get these messages from the spirit side and from him. And so I just followed along, and it was a great adventure.
Great. So would you basically did he at least talk about any of us basically having such a being as part of our lives, or our kind of like this spirit guide, or what would you say regarding that?
Oh, absolutely. He said that every one of us has, a number of spirit guides, could be 2, 3, 4, 5, or more. And the spirit guides are souls on the spirit side who are like our life coaches. And they're there and they're with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They never leave us. And they're there to try to give us some guidance in terms of how we carry out our journey on Earth. And the guidance they give is based upon what we had planned for ourselves before we incarnated, because we all prepared what I call a life plan. Some people call it a contract. It's a plan where we picked out basically the life that we wanted to live, which is the place we're going to be born, the identity of our parents, siblings, other relatives, first language we'd learn, that sort of thing. And we did that for the purpose of facing challenges and learning lessons that we needed for our growth and evolution as souls. So that's why we came here. We want to grow and evolve and acquire wisdom. Okay. And so our guides know that. They know what we wanted to accomplish, but we don't remember what's in our life plan. So we don't know that once we've incarnated. And so they're there to try to steer us in the right direction. But their guidance is, even though they're with us all the time and they're always sending us messages, their communications are very subtle. It's not like, see, with Albert, I had a very direct conversation like you and I are having, Adnan. But for most people, it's very subtle messages, like flashes of intuition, gut feelings, whispers in our mind, that kind of thing. And the problem that most humans have is that they don't hear those messages, or if they hear them, they don't recognize where they're coming from or what they should do with them. So that's really a challenge. That's one of the big challenges of the life on Earth, is to listen to our guides. So the answer is yes. Everyone has guides, and some of them will change over the course of our lifetimes. Like there'll be one or two who will be with us from birth until death, but there'll be others who will come and go as our life progresses, depending on what our needs are at any given time. And so there's a constant changeover of our guides. Anyway, so yes, everyone has them. You have them. There's nobody who does not have a guide, and these guides are chosen by us before we incarnate, so that we sort of have our team in place. And then, of course, once we're born, we forget all that stuff. We forget where we came from. We forget that we have guides. Forget we have a life plan, and so we have to kind of flounder around somewhat blindly on Earth, which makes it the biggest challenge for all of us, is that we don't remember who we are, where we came from.
So, Garnet, I don't mean to throw you a curveball, but I wanted to ask you a question that there have been a lot of people that have confirmed what you're saying and shared their stories with their spirit guides. But have you ever heard of an answer, or maybe didn't even know to ask the question, why is it functioning in that way?
Why is it that, sorry, that we have
Why is
spirit
it
guides?
that there is this mentorship, and how did it all come to be? And instead of us just kind of randomly existing and being all over the place.
Well, I think I'm not sure who first devised it. It's probably been around for a long time. the idea behind it was that that we do need some guidance, although it can't be sort of really specific guidance. You see, if our spirit guides just basically talked to us like we are now and said, "Okay, Adnan, tomorrow you should do this, and next week you should do that, and then next month you should do that," it would be too easy. You'd have a step-by-step roadmap, and they can't give that to you because that would be too easy. As Albert said, if you knew all that stuff directly in very minute detail, it would be like a teacher giving her students the questions and answer to a final exam before the exam. It's like there'd be no purpose in studying for it because you'd be all there for you. So that's the real challenge. That's what makes the Earth School one of the toughest schools in the universe. And of course, the Dolores Cannon, the founder of Ozark Mountain Publishing, she has communicated that over and over again. It's a tough school. It is. Albert has confirmed that. And as living on Earth is no walk in the park. It's not a picnic. I mean, there's some good things. There's some trials and tribulations we all have to go through, but that's designed to give us challenges to overcome and lessons to learn. Does that answer your question, Adnan? Or
Well, I mean, yeah, you basically answered by saying that. I mean, you said you don't know, and it is quite. I don't know. It's perplexing for me to just kind of. I mean, it's almost like the human brain always wants the origin story. It's like something is working a certain way. Why? On these different levels that I guess that we exist, are they all interconnected in some way to suggest that, as a lot of people talk about, that we're part of this oneness? What is your experience? Like, is there such a thing as a God, or are we all part of it? Is it all one and the same? Or what is your perception of what it is that you experience? What do you possibly know about that, if you have any information?
Oh, absolutely. I've had a number of discussions with Albert about this. There is a excuse me. There is a God, which I refer to as the creator, or the source, and that is that's who started everything. I mean, originally there was just the source existing as a singularity of consciousness and energy, and then it decided to fill the void around it with matter and energy, and so what some scientists call the Big Bang created the Big Bang, and so all this energy fanned out from the original source, and eventually that energy congealed into matter, into gas and particles, and eventually all those things formed all the stars and all the planets and all the galaxies, and so that's sort of where it all started from. And so the source, everything is connected to the source, including you and I. So all of the souls are intimately connected to the source and connected to each other, which is hard for a lot of us to understand, because it seems like when you see somebody walking down the street, you think, well, that person is separate from me. In a physical sense, they are, but in a soul sense, we're all connected. And so the source is sort of the sum total of everything, and we're all part of the source, all connected to it and connected to each other. Although it's hard for us as humans to really understand that, because in our daily lives, it seems like everything is separate.
Was there any kind of discussion of why that happened? What was I mean, it's kind of silly to say this, but did the source not feel fulfilled enough, or was it just feeling like it needed to create something, so it created this? What do you think that
Yeah,
could be?
according to Albert, it was sort of like excuse me, it was sort of like the source just felt like it wanted to create things and fill the void, so it could better experience what it was. Sort of like a painter with a blank canvas, and a painter wants to paint things on the canvas, and then stands back and admires what he's created, and then moves on to the next one. It was sort of that. I mean, hard for us to imagine quite how that all works, but that's sort of the best explanation that Albert could give me, was that the source just wanted to fill the void around it with matter and things, and eventually life forms, and then everything that all the life forms in the universe, everything that we and all the other life forms experience, are experienced vicariously by the source. So the source can just enjoy what it has created in all of its many facets. And so it was like an artist painting on a blank canvas to create something beautiful.
Would you say that what we feel and think is kind of like a small version of what the source is also capable of, or should I say, is what we feel more of a very rudimentary of what the source is actually perceiving?
Quite a bit more rudimentary. I mean, the source is, in terms of awareness level and consciousness and intelligence, is just light years above us. So we're sort of rudimentary individual aspects of the source, is how Albert put it. And so when the souls were created, it was like sparks of light spinning out from a central sun, and those sparks of light were souls, and the source created those sparks of light, which is our souls, and basically sent them out and said, go and explore the universe and try incarnations, and everything that you see and experience gets fed back to me. And so it was just part of the source's grand scheme.
So I guess, was it part of the plan from the beginning to, as we looking from our end, physically at least, that it was meant to be endless?
Yes. Yeah, it's eternal. We are eternal. Source is eternal. Excuse me. And when I asked Albert, who created the source, or where did it come from, and he just said, source has always been there. No one created it, which is really hard for us to understand. But that's all he could say. Source has always been there. It's eternal. Souls are eternal. I mean, so we never die. We just keep on exploring different aspects of the universe, incarnating into different life forms, and we just continue on. It's like a journey of exploration and acquiring knowledge and wisdom that has no finish line. We just keep on going. And you might say, well, if we're all eternal, sooner or later we're going to see everything there is to see in the universe. And the answer is no, because the universe is constantly expanding and in fact dividing. One of the things that was very interesting for me was that when the source created the first universe, it built in a random sort of a division factor into a universe, so that at random times, the first universe split into two identical universes. Okay, and then over time, those universes, because of the interaction of mass and energy and so on, they changed. So immediately they were identical, then they changed, and then over time, those two split into two more, and so on. Right now, we have a countless number of universes, parallel universes that exist. And one of the things that was interesting, he said in one parallel universe that deals with sort of planet Earth, in one of them, Earth doesn't even exist because of a quirk in the cosmology at the time. It doesn't even exist. In another parallel universe, he said that Earth, the asteroid that hit the Yucatan Peninsula 65 million years ago, destroying most of the dinosaurs, in that universe, it missed Earth by a whisker. And on that Earth, the dinosaurs are still the dominant species. So there's a lot of differences that happen. A number of the differences arise because of the different free will actions of life forms on the different universes. And so, I actually got to see Earth. I actually got to see two of them, but one of my first trips was to Earth in a parallel universe where it was really very similar but different in two very significant aspects. And so it was very interesting to see how, when you look back at history, where some minor decision made by some government or whatever, or some accident that happens, made a significant change in how that Earth developed compared to ours. So it's really interesting. And he said, when a universe splits, the life forms do not know that it has split. And so if you're in a universe that's split, all of a sudden now there's two Adnans, one in each universe. And so it's basically like you have a clone. And the interesting thing is that because we all have free wills to take actions and make decisions, is that Adnan and Earth number one may make different decisions than Adnan and Earth number two. So you never quite know how it all shakes out. And when you look back on it, excuse me, you may have had a number of major decision points in your life, like where should I go to school, which city should I live in, what job should I have. If you're able to look at these two parallel universes, you might find that Adnan in one universe made a different decision than in the other universe. It'll be very interesting, and you can't see this now, but when you return to the spirit side, you'll be able to see what happened to all the Adnans, if in fact there are any. Now it's possible that our universe has not split recently, so maybe there's just one of us, but we don't know. Anyway, it's a very interesting, intriguing concept.
The differences on point of views here on the planet is so vast that you always have people that are more into science, other people more religious, and then you have what some people call the metaphysical field and all of that.
Mhm.
So is it basically the whole point that only certain people have gotten to the point to where now it's time for us to get more acquainted with what's more out there, whereas in others might kind of just continue their life the way they always have, or is it the point that every person on the planet has to come to this understanding? What is your take on that?
Well, if there's two different people, if there's people on two different universes, they certainly can make different decisions. But in terms of people being more spiritually aware of excuse me, of the reality of the cycle of reincarnation and who we are, that is developing here on our Earth, has developed quite rapidly, actually, over the last 20 or 30 years. There's more and more people who are becoming more spiritually aware, more into the metaphysics, sort of less of the religion. Albert said to me that if I had written my first book 30 years ago, nobody would publish it, and if it was published, nobody would read it because there weren't enough people who were sort of open-minded enough to sort of read it and understand it and agree with it, or maybe disagree with it, but to understand what it was said in the books. And we've made a lot of progress, but we still have a long ways to go. I mean, there's still a lot of the big problems on our planet, Adnan, is that there's too many excuse me, too many humans who let their negative emotions get out of control and run their lives, like fear, anger, hate, greed. That's why we have so many wars and genocide and murders and other crimes. And so what we have to do, and what Albert is trying to do through by giving me his message, is to try to get people to be more aware that we all are eternal souls. We have to control our negative emotions, embrace love and compassion. And the more people who can do that, the better place our world will be as a place to live in. So that was his goal.
Basically, eventually, the whole point is for everyone to have this understanding. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah, yeah, that's the intention. They're hoping that eventually every human will reach this understanding, and in which case then we'll have a much better planet Earth. But it's a tough battle because there's so many people who don't pay any attention to this, or if you talk to them about spirituality, they'll roll their eyes and think that you're crazy. So there's a lot of we have a long ways to go to get acceptance. But my point was that over the last number of years, more and more people are accepting this way of thinking, and it's really up to everyone who signs on to it to try to persuade their family, their neighbors, their coworkers, whoever, to sign on to this. And if we do that, then we're going to have a happier place to live in.
Has Albert talked to you about let's say the next 5 to 10 years? If is there a certain kind of goal? Is there something that, I guess, for lack of a better word, maybe a prediction of how things would be like, or maybe should be like? What is your thought on that?
He doesn't give me specific time frames. He does that deliberately. But what he does say is that things are moving in the right direction, and that he's optimistic that more and more humans eventually, over a period of time, will become more spiritually aware, which is his goal. But he won't set a time period, and despite me asking him several times, he won't commit to that. I mean, he won't say excuse me, he won't say, yeah, you guys are out of the woods and you're going to be doing just fine, because if he says that, then people will relax and say, okay, well, we don't have to worry about it. So he has to say, and he doesn't want to say, you guys are hopeless, it's not going to work, because then we'll give up. So he has to say, I'm optimistic, you're heading in the right direction, but you have to work at it and keep on plugging away. And he just won't give a time frame.
So I'm going to have to ask, and this is pretty much the very nature of this channel. How do the extraterrestrials come into play? Do you have any information on that from Albert?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The extraterrestrials are living on sort of our physical plane, sort of the same, and there's some that are on different dimensions, but a lot of them that we see as UFOs are on our physical plane. And there's a number of different advanced alien races who have been visiting Earth for a long, long time, and they are still visiting Earth. Excuse me. And that's the when people see UFOs, that's their spacecraft. I mean, and they're very real, and a lot of people have seen them. A lot of people have encountered them. Some people have been abducted by them. So they're very, very real, even though a lot of the governments still don't acknowledge them. but they are very real. And they're very, these races are very intelligent, like way more technologically advanced than humans are, because they can travel between the stars and we can't. I mean, we can't even get to Mars yet, although that may be coming soon. But anyway, so they're very much more advanced, and they're all benevolent. Like, despite there's lots of conspiracy theories out there about reptilians trying to take over the planet or other malevolent races. Albert says no, the ones that come to Earth are all benevolent. They're here to watch and observe what we're doing, here to help us in subtle ways, and so we have nothing to fear from them. And he said that at some point, and again, he won't give me a time frame. At some point, when the ETs feel that humanity is ready to accept them, they will make themselves openly apparent to everyone on Earth, and so they'll basically, a spaceship will land on the lawn of the White House and say, "Here we are, guys." Excuse me. So yeah, they're very real. I've actually had a number of occasions to encounter some of these. I was at one of my trips with Albert. He took me aboard an ET spacecraft that was orbiting planet Earth, and there was manned by humanoids that were gray with large oblong eyes, and I mean they're very much similar to some of the drawings that other people have put out. And they were just monitoring what was going on planet Earth, and were part of a race that's been here for a long, long time. He also took me to a planet near the center of our galaxy that he called Xiron, Xiron, and there underground was living a very advanced civilization of very intelligent ETs that looked sort of like spiders, like they're sort of like big spiders. In any event, their job was to monitor all the planets in our galaxy to find the ones that were capable of harboring life. And they had sort of very sophisticated instruments to sort of, check out all the planets. And once they found a planet that they felt could harbor life, then they give that information to other ETs, who then arranged to transport life from planets that had life to the new planet. So basically a life seeding operation, which is how he said we got life on Earth way back when. Was some of the ETs transported life from another planet to our planet. So it's very interesting. And I also had, excuse me, occasion to visit a couple of very advanced human civilizations on other planets. And so, one of my questions was, do humans exist only on planet Earth? And he said, no, they're on other planets. And he took me to a couple that were very much more civilized, very much more advanced than our civilization on Earth. And he just wanted to show me that, okay, if you humans on planet Earth can get your act together, you too can have a very happy, utopian kind of civilization on your planet. And so he just wanted to show me that humans aren't necessarily the same everywhere, that there are some that were doing very well, actually.
So I have kind of two questions that arise from this. One is it the point that because we're all connected and we're all part of that one, that it doesn't matter what we look like and who we are, that we're just going to help each other out? And then the second question is, all these different alien races that are coming here, are they from our same universe, or are they one of those parallel universes, as you mentioned?
I didn't ask him that specifically, but I think they probably come from both. Certainly from our universe and excuse me, and other parallel universes as well. I didn't really ask him how many were from whichever place, but certainly they're capable of coming from other parallel universes, other dimensions. And as I mentioned, they've been around for a long, long time, trying to help us. And the interesting thing that, and I'm not the first one to say this, but there is a federation of very intelligent ETs in our galaxy called the Galactic Federation, which is just a group of these super intelligent races who are all friendly and benevolent, who basically sort of watch what's happening in the galaxy. And what they're trying to do is prevent, and there's a lot of planets where the life forms are very violent and aggressive and malevolent. And what they're trying to do is make sure that those races on those planets don't learn how to travel to other star systems, so they can wage war on other peace-loving, civilizations. So they watch everything, and their hope is to make sure that all these races that eventually develop interstellar travel, that they will be peace-loving and not aggressive by the time they learn to travel to other star systems. So the Galactic Federation is sort of the governing body for the galaxy, and so all these races that have been visiting Earth, they're all part of that. And what really got their attention, they've been around for a long time, but really got their attention was when the atom was split in World War II, because that was sort of like all of a sudden they said, hey, these humans on Earth are getting developing some very sophisticated weapons, and we want to keep our eye on them. And so but they're really here to help us, and they live what is what Albert called the Prime Directive, which is very similar to the one that you all know about on Star Trek. Where these races aren't allowed to unduly interfere with the development of an inferior civilization. And so to them, we are an inferior civilization by any counts at all. And so they can't just come in and just change everything for us. I mean, their technology would allow them to destroy all of our weapons if they weren't following this directive. So they have to just let us develop in our own way, which is why we've had so many wars and other crises on our planet. And it frustrates them, but they can't sort of get in there and fix all of our problems with a silver bullet. So they have to sort of watch and try to send us subtle messages about how to develop technology and how to live a better life.
Would you say that a person on an individual level, that they simply would have to start on their own out of basically their own free will to start going down this direction? Or is it to, I had to say it kind of, I'd hate to think of this as some kind of having to create a dogmatic system to teach it to others. Do you think everyone would just eventually be drawn to this information, or how do you foresee this information reaching, let's say, the average person? Oh, I'm sorry, regarding the spirituality part, and then not to mention, the extraterrestrials and everything else that's going on.
Well, the spirituality part, they have a game plan on the spirit side, and Albert is one of the messengers that they the person who's sort of propagating the message. There's a bunch of others. Albert has many messengers besides me. I'm just one of them. But so what they try to do is inspire people to write books, inspire people like yourself to have do interviews or have radio programs or TV shows or speak at presentations. That's how they're trying to get the message out. And so it's not a quick solution. It takes time. You have to take one step at a time. But that's how they're trying to get the message out. And more, and the more people that sort of sign on to the spirituality message, then the less sort of crime and violence we'll have in our world. So that's how they get that out. Excuse me. In terms of the ETs, basically the ETs are waiting for what they think to be an appropriate point in our civilization to become fully open to all people. What they're afraid of is that if they expose themselves to everyone before we're ready, that it might cause panic and chaos and other things. And so they're basically, they've got a program where they're slowly acclimatizing humans to the fact that there are spacecraft out there, other aliens that are more intelligent than us, that are visiting us. They're doing it very slowly, like more and more sightings. You get more and more people speaking out, scientists and other people who are saying, yeah, it's these guys are real, and that it's not a conspiracy theory that these UFOs and these people are actually real, and that once we sort of get more accustomed to it, then at some point they'll say, okay, humans, you're ready for us. Here we are. We're going to tell everyone who we are and why we're here.
How many is there a specific timeline of which alien race is going to make contact when, or is it just kind of, do they just, as what do you call it again, the Galactic Federation? Do they have sort of a plan of, okay, guys, you going in first, and then the other races are going to come in second, third, and so on, or how would this work?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about if there is I assume there's probably a plan. These guys are very intelligent, so they're not going to leave anything to chance. But Albert didn't tell me there was a plan, or he wouldn't tell me what it was. So that's up in the air. But I can't imagine that they don't have a plan. that they must know how they're going to do it, who's in first, who's in second, that sort of thing. But that's just a mystery to everyone right now.
What was your perception about
Mm.
this possible contact? Basically, you said, what did you say, 20 to 30 years that it took people to understand more or be more open minded to the metaphysical? Is that what you said?
I said that in the last 20 to 30 years, there's been a substantial increase in the number of people who've become more spiritually aware. And so it's been a gradual process, didn't happen overnight, but gradually it's been more and more people are becoming more spiritually aware. And so that process is going to continue, and it will be helped by people who, write books, or as I say, or have radio shows or whatever. By spreading that message, we're going to get more and more humans to sign on to it, which is a good thing.
Right. So that process, does it kind of go hand in hand between metaphysics and alien contact, would you say?
I'm not sure yeah, he didn't really say there's any direct contact, but there probably is. I mean, I think that when humans would be more acceptance of the fact that there's a alien life in our galaxy and the universe, more acceptance of that once they're sort of more spiritually aware of who they are and about the cycle of reincarnation and sort of how everything works. And so I think having more people spiritually aware will help humans to accept the fact that there are intelligent alien races in our galaxy who are visiting our planet.
What is the general direction that Albert would like you to go into? Is it just writing books, or will there be more information that he'll reveal to you, as I guess we all are ready to then officially be able to kind of add that information to the society via books and other media?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. Albert does not tell me what his ultimate plans are. And in fact, every time when he would come to into my bedroom to take me on an astral trip, he wouldn't tell me when he was coming or where we're going. He just sort of like, okay, let's go. So he's pretty closed mouthed about a lot of things, and he won't tell me about whether I'm writing any more books after 5. It wouldn't surprise me if he came to me and tapped me on the shoulder after at some point and say, guess what, you're writing another book. So I just follow what he says. I've learned that there's no point in trying to argue with spirit. If you dig in your heels, they're going to win anyway, so you might as well go with it.
Was there anything that he ever revealed to you about yourself that you weren't aware before that really kind of made you take a step back, or anything like that?
Well, not in a specific sense in terms of my human life, but he, I mean, before I met him, I wasn't really sure who I was. I didn't know, am I a soul? Am I just a physical body? I didn't know. I mean, I was raised as a Roman Catholic, but I had rejected a lot of what they said about heaven and hell and everything else. So I didn't really know who I was or where I was going. I didn't know what would happen to me when my body died. And so he really revealed to me that I'm an eternal soul, just like you are, Adnan. Same with everyone else. And so that was really an eye opener to me. And he also, and so that was very comforting for me about the cycle of reincarnation. What happens? Why am I here? What happens when I die? And then that I could come back and reincarnate and so on. And so that was an eye opener, because that's not what I learned as a child in the Catholic Church, which was sort of like, God put me here and I have one life, and if I'm a bad boy, I'm going to go to hell when I die, and if I'm good, I'll go to heaven. That was sort of their standard sort of belief system. And so what I learned about myself is that I'm much different than what they had taught me.
What was it that you are covering mainly in your 5th book or the upcoming book, if you can share a little bit about it?
Yeah, I will. I don't want to get into too many specifics yet, but so one of the interesting things about the 5th book was that I got to sit on the spirit side. I got to sit in on an orientation class for souls who were thinking about incarnating on Earth, who had never gone to Earth before. And so it was a really interesting sort of a refresher course where Albert and Sophia, the chair of the Council of Wise Ones, were telling all these souls about the cycle of the incarnation on Earth, and how you do the life plan, and you're born and you have free will, and that that when you die you're not judged, and you go back to the spirit side. So that was a very interesting sort of a course to sit in on, and it's a really good refresher course for anyone who has read my previous books. There's pieces of this in all the other books, but this is sort of a good wrap up package and it was for souls who were, as I said, thinking about incarnating on Earth. So it was a good orientation session. I also had some very interesting conversations and meetings with some wise and famous souls on the spirit side, including Albert Einstein, Marie Antoinette, Mother Teresa, who had some really amazing stories to tell about their lives and what they had learned from their lives on Earth. I had he actually took me to another planet where there was a very super intelligent reptilian beings who actually looked like alligators, but they lived on this planet. They had amazingly they had learned to get all the energy they required, all the nutrition from their sun. So they developed a system like photosynthesis where the energy from the sun they absorbed that, and that's all they needed. So they didn't eat any other animals or plants or anything else. They had a very nice, amazing society. He also took me to another Earth in a parallel universe where they had a pandemic just like we are currently coming out of right now. Excuse me. They had it much earlier in the time frame, and what they learned from the pandemic was that during the lockdowns, that there was a whole lot less pollution on their planet, and we've noticed that early last spring here on our planet when there was less smog in L.A. The canals in Venice were a lot clearer than they had been. It was amazing how you can notice the less pollution when we just shut down our activities for a while, stop driving as much, stop flying as much. And so that planet, what they learned was that, okay, well, we have to find a way to cut down on the pollution and on the burning of fossil fuels. So they did find a way. And basically, without giving too much away, they developed a teleportation system similar to what you saw in Star Trek, where if you wanted to go somewhere, you go into a little booth and you punch in your destination and you end up at the other place. So if you're in LA, let's say I want to go to New York, it's just like that. You come out of a booth in New York and away you go. So that means a whole lot less cars driving, less trains, less airplanes, and so their world was a lot more cleaner and less pollution than ours. And so it was something that we should aspire to do, and it was really an eye opener. Which means that if we put our minds to it, we can actually accomplish quite a bit.
But that other Earth, was it technologically, I guess, on the same level, or was it a bit more advanced? Or are you saying that as we are now, technology-wise, that we should be able to develop this?
Well, they're a bit more advanced because they obviously developing this teleportation system is not something that we have. Excuse me, and we can develop it at some point, but in that aspect, they were further ahead than us. And so they're also further ahead in terms of not polluting the earth as much. And they had less conflicts. I mean, it was just a happier place to be. And so how far away are we from that? I don't know. We certainly have the capability here in this universe to develop that. And and there may be other solutions to stopping the pollution, but that was one which I found was really neat. I mean, I've always been a fan of Star Trek, and I always liked the idea of Captain Kirk being on the planet and saying, "Beam me up, Scotty," and away you go, through the teleportation, and that's something that they developed, which we haven't yet. So they're further ahead of us, but it gives us a target, a goal to try to achieve. So a couple of other highlights from my book 5 is that Albert took me to the underground caverns in Area 51 in Nevada, where I saw some amazing things. I won't disclose that now. And he also gave me some information, which was really quite interesting about the Loch Ness Monster, about the Ark of the Covenant, and about the Bermuda Triangle. And I won't disclose those now because I hope people
just
will read my book. But anyway, some
one
interesting
little
stuff.
bit. If anything, you can tell us just a tiny bit. If you can't, I understand.
Well, yeah, okay. A tiny bit. The Bermuda Triangle. The reason that so many planes have disappeared and boats and everything else, the problem. Underneath the Bermuda Triangle is a underground, beneath the seabed, a UFO base. And so when these UFOs are coming and going, they set off electromagnetic disturbance, and that sometimes knocks out the navigation systems for our planes and boats and so on. That's all I'm going to say, but it's very interesting.
So do they actually crash, or that's why they're gone?
No,
or
no, oh no, yeah, sometimes they crash, and sometimes they actually go through an interdimensional portal and they end up in another universe.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, that's something to look
Yeah,
forward to in the new book then.
yeah, yeah. And so anyway, those are sort of the highlights. I encourage everyone that when it does come out to read it, but I don't want to give away too many secrets right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have your author's page in the description of this video, so when they go there, they'll be able to see all your other books, and when it's officially published by Ozark, it'll be on that list as well.
Mhm.
So, is there
Yep.
anything else you would like to maybe conclude with, and or continue to talk about something else that you can tell me about?
No, I think we've covered a lot of bases here. I just would like to say to people that if they want more information about me and my books, go to my website, which is garnetschulhauser.com. That's not easy to remember, but if they Google any of my book titles, like Dancing on a Stamp, they'll get to my website. And there, you can download an excerpt of all of my books. You can watch a book video. You can dial into my social media sites like Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. And you can also dial into my YouTube channel, where on my YouTube channel, I post recordings of all of my interviews, my radio talk show interviews and interviews like this. And so you can go through there and they can click on and watch all my interviews, and that gives them a lot of information. And so I encourage. There's also on my website, I have convenient buy links to all the popular online bookstores. If you click on those, it gets right to the page where my books are. They can just buy them right there. So I encourage people to go to my website.
Great, Garnet. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll include some of the links that you want direct access to in the description as well, so that sometimes if you have to click to one page and go somewhere else. So what I'm saying is I'll probably have your YouTube video link directly underneath there, your website directly under, so it'll be just a lot quicker and easier to access. But Garnet, thank you again. It sounds like it's going to be a very exciting book coming up. So I'm looking forward to it. And I hope everyone else gets a chance to see what Garnet has written about. So check it out. Garnet, thank you again. I really appreciate it. And I hope we can do this again soon sometime.
Thank you for having me, Adnan. And I enjoy all of our interviews. This is like about the number 3 I've had with you. And I'm happy to come back anytime.
Awesome. Well, Garnet, thank you. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. And everyone else, have a good day.